business, if you don't impart everything into them, then how they gonna run your business according to the way you would do it? You ain't taught them everything.
That's right.
And see, a lot of people afraid that, okay, if I show this person everything that they need, then they gonna go out and do it themselves. Well, if what God has for you, why are you worrying about that?
All right, now.
Look at the fact that you was able to train somebody up, plant a seed in their life where they can go out there and be successful.
Yeah.
So if they do that, then the more they become successful, the more you ought to be proud of the job that you did.
Amen.
And that's why you don't even know who the king of the Philistines is. Only thing you know is they just sent the lot. But all at the same time, Saul was sitting back afraid. And his men was afraid. Now, verse 12. Actually, I want to skip down to verse 16. Now, every single day, Goliath went out there and challenged the Philistines. Now, look at verse 16. And the Philistine drew near morning and even and presented himself 40 days. So this whole thing been going on for 40 days. 40 days straight, he went out there and challenged the children of Israel. 40 days straight, they were walking in field. They were just sitting back while he out there talking to them. And so what's going on now is that David's father, Jesse, has prepared, a lunch and a meal to send out there to his sons while they're out there in battle. And so he gave the thing to David to take out there to him. Verse 17. And Jesse said unto David his son, take now for thy brother an ephah of this parched corn and these 10 loaves and run to the camp to thy brother. And carry these 10 cheeses unto the captains of their thousands, and look how the brethren fare, and take their place. Verse 19. Now Saul and they and all the men of Israel were in the battle of Eli fighting with the Philistines. Verse 20. Okay. And David, now, what I want you to do now is look at the leadership within David. In other words, look at the call that was needed. Okay, then look at what David was doing compared to how all the men that were before him was doing. Because neither one of them would go out. All of them was afraid. But all at the same time, they needed a leader. They needed somebody to challenge the Philistines. So look at what David is doing. And this right here will show you why God chose David. Now, verse 20. It said, and David rose up early in the morning. Now, very first thing he did, he got up early enough to get to the field before lunch break. Because the whole thing was him to take a lunch to his brother.
Amen.
So first of all, he got up early enough to get there before they went on their lunch break. Look at what it said then. And left the sheep with the keeper. Now, David already had stuff set up in order to that. When he got ready to go, he had already raised up and trained up somebody else to tend his sheep while he was gone. So the whole time he took his trip, he didn't have to worry about the sheep because he already had that taken care of. And then he also had a heart and compassion for his brethren and the children of Israel because he didn't talk back when his daddy told him to go. He wasn't worried about the fact that he might get killed. When his daddy told him to go, he just got up and went. It said, and went as Jesse commanded him, and he came to the trenches. Excuse me. And David rose up early in the morning and left the sheep with the keeper and took it and went as Jesse had commanded him. And he came to the trenches. And as the host was going forth, he came to the trenches as the host was going forth to fight and shouted for the battle. For Israel and the Philistines had put the battle in array, army against army. Now, and David left his carriage in the hands of the keeper of the carriage. So now when David got to the battle, he knew that the parking lot was going to be full. So he already had somebody to take care of his carriage while he was going out the battle. And then when he got out the carriage, he didn't take nobody else with him and put them in harm's way. David ran out there himself. It said, then, matter of fact, he went straight into the trenches. It said that when he got there, he saluted his brother. Verse 23. And as he talked with them, behold, there came up the champion of the Philistines, of Gath, Goliath by name, out of the armies of the Philistines, and spake according to the same word, and David heard them. Now, it just so happened when David got there, Goliath had came out again to challenge the people. But this time, David heard what he was saying. Verse 24. And all the men of Israel, when they saw the man, fled from him and were so afraid. So when they saw Goliath coming, every single one of them grabbed their lunch and took off. Verse 25. And the men of Israel said, have you seen this man that is come up? Surely to defy Israel is he come up. And it shall be that the man who killed him, the king will enrich him with great riches, and will give him his daughter, and make his father's house free in Israel. Now, what you got to understand is that David was no dummy. David already knew 2 chapters earlier that he had been anointed to be king over Israel.
All right.
So David had enough sense to take advantage of every situation that came up, that he was able to walk in a position of authority, that he was able to walk in leadership. And so David knew, according to the word of the prophet, that he would be king. So he knew that he couldn't go out there and get killed. Because why would God send a prophet to prophesy and anoint you king for you to step right out the door and die? So he knew he would get the victory if he went out there and fought the Philistines. Hallelujah. Verse 27. And the people answered him after this manner, saying, so shall it be done to the man that killed him. Now look at verse 28. And Eliab, his eldest brother, who God already done rejected, when he spake unto the men, and Eliab's anger was kindled against David. Question: why would you sit up and get mad at somebody for doing the very thing that you're afraid to do?
Amen. Amen.
Now, he won't go out there. But all at the same time, he get mad at David because David got the faith to go out there and fight the Philistines. And Eliab's anger was kindled against David. And he said, why comest thou down hither? With whom hast thou left those few sheep in the wilderness? I know thy pride and thy knowledge of thy heart, and thou art come down that thou mightest see the battle. In other words, now this is David, the only somebody in the whole nation of Israel that's anointed enough to kill the Philistines. And here his brother saying, what you doing out there? You ought to be back at home tending the few little sheep. And that's the bigger problem with church folk this day and time. They judge people according to what they able to do.
All right.
Just because you can't do it don't mean I can't do it.
All right.
And just because I can't do it, that don't mean you cannot do it.
All right.
And they was mad because here goes somebody trying to step up to do the very thing that they refused to do. Hallelujah. Now, okay, go back to verse 29. And then it said, I know thy pride and thy knowledge in the heart, for thou art come down that thou might see the battle. Every time you step out to do something for God, it's going to be somebody that's going to have something to say about it. Everybody going to try to tell you, oh, you